Once upon a midnight chilling, as I held my feet unwilling over a tub of scalding water at the heat of 94, nervously a toe in dipping, dripping, slipping, then out skipping, suddenly there came a ripping, whipping at my chamber door. "'Tis the second floor," I'd mutter, flipping at my chamber door. "Wants a light, but nothing more." Distinctly I remember it was in the chill November, and each cuticle and member was with influenza sore. Faltering, I stirred the gruel, steaming, creaming o'er the fuel, and removed the jewel from each frosted nostril bore, wiping away the trembling jewel that each reddening nostril bore, nameless here for evermore. And I recollected a certain draught that found the window curtain, chilled me, filled me with the horror of 2 steps across the floor, and beside I got my feet in, and a most refreshing heat in. To myself I sat, repeating, if I answer to the door, rise to let the ruffian in, who seems to want to burst the door. I'll be that and something more. Presently the row grew stronger, hesitating, then no longer. "Really, Mr. Johnson, blow it. Your forgiveness I implore." Such an observation letting slip, but when a man's just getting into bed, you come upset nerves and post of chamber's door. Making such a row forgetting, spoke a voice beyond the door. "'Tisn't Johnson, nothing more." Quick a perspiration clammy bathed me, and I uttered, "Dammy." Observation rests from me like the one I made before. Back upon the cushion sinking, hopelessly my eyes like winking at some stout or private drinking ranging in rows upon the floor, fixed, and on an oyster barrel full beside them on the floor, looked and groaned and nothing more. Open then was flung the portal, in stepped a hated mortal, by the moderns called a vulture, known as Sponge in days of yore. Well I knew his reputation, because of all my agitation. Scarce a nod or salutation changed, he pounced upon the floor, coolly lifted up the oysters and some stout from off the floor, helped himself and took some more. Then this hungry beast, untiring, fixed his gaze with fond admiring on a piece of cold-boiled beef I meant to last a week or more. Quickly he set to work devouring, plates in quick succession scouring, stout with every mouthful showering, made me ask to see it pour. If he quite enjoyed his supper, as I watched the liquid pour, said the vulture nevermore. Much disgusted at the spacious vacuum by this brute voracious, evacuated in the beef he'd eaten quite enough for 4, still I feel relief surprising when at length I saw him rising. That he meant to go surmising, said I, glancing at the door. "Going? Well, I won't detain you. Mind the stairs and shut the door. Leave you, Tompkins, nevermore." Startled by an answer dropping hints that he'd intended stopping, all his life I knew him equal to it if he'd like, or more, half in dismal earnest, half in joke, with an attempt at laughing, I remarked that he was chaffing, and demanded of the boar, asking what this disgusting, nasty, greedy, vile, intrusive boar meant in croaking, nothing more. But the vulture, not replying, took my bunch of keys, and trying several, found at length the one to fit my private cupboard door, took the gin out, filled the kettle, and with a song for to nettle, any saint began to settle calmly down the grating before. Really he had meant departing at a date I named before, of never, never, nevermore. Then I sat engaged in guessing what this circumstance distressing would be like to result in, for I knew that long before, once it served me right for drinking, I had told him that if sinking in the world my fortunes linking to his own, he'd find my door always open to receive him, and it struck me now that the door he would pass perhaps nevermore. Suddenly the air was clouded, all the furniture enshrouded with the smoke of vile tobacco. This was worse than all before. "Smith," I cried, in not offensive tones, it might have been expensive, for he knew the art defensive, and could costermonger's floor. "Recollect, it's after midnight. Are you going? Mind the floor?" Quoth the vulture, "Nevermore." "Smith," I cried, the gin was going down his throat in rivers flowing, "if you want a bed, you know there's quite a nice hotel next door. Very cheap. I'm ill, and joking set apart, your horrid smoking irritates my cough to choking. Having mentioned it before, really you should not compel one. Will you mizzle as before? Quoth the vulture, nevermore. Smith, I cried, that joke repeating merits little better retreating for you than a condemnation as a nuisance and a bore. Drop it, pray, it isn't funny. I've to mix some rum and honey. If you want a little money, take some and be off next door. Run a bill up for me if you like, but do it off next door. Quoth the vulture, nevermore. Smith, I shrieked, the accent tumbler dropping. As another tumbler I beheld him mix. Be off, you drive me mad, it's striking hour. Leave the house and something in it. If you go on at the gin, it won't hold out another minute. Leave the house and shut the door. Take your beak out my gin, take your body through the door. Quoth the vulture, nevermore. And the vulture, never flitting, still is sitting, gulping down my stout by gallons and my oysters by the score, and the beast with no more breeding than a heathen savage feeding, and the new carpet's tints unheeding throws his shells upon the floor, and his smoke from out my curtains and his stains from out my floor shall be sifted nevermore.